All right, let's take some time now to talk about chord building. Looking at the piano here, I'm focused just on one octave. We're going to do everything here in the key of C because there's no sharps or flats. So when it comes to building some of these chords and we need to flatten the 3rd degree or flatten the 7th degree, you'll easily be able to see where that change is being made. So just to review, let's take a look at this keyboard for a second and name the notes. Okay, so just the white keys here, we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then we get back to C. I kind of cut that note off because I don't want you to get too confused. You can see it just starts to repeat again in this pattern. However, we just really want to focus on this one octave right here. All right, so now that you know that this is all the notes, we can see the major scale. C major scale here, we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Those are the 7 degrees that fall within the key of C major. Okay, so now if we were talking about building, let's start with just 3-part chords. If we were talking about building a major chord, we would want to do the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th. So in the key of C, of course, we're going to need 1, C. Then we need our 3rd, which is 1, 2, 3. This is E. That gives us our major 3rd right there, which actually is the core of the major chord. And then we also need the 5th, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That note is G. So to spell a C major chord, we need a C, an E, and a G. 1, 3, 5. So remember that. This is the 1st of the chord, the 3rd of the chord, and the 5th of the chord. So if we were to do it in a different key, we would take the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th degree of that key in order to spell that major chord. All right, now let's look at a minor chord. In order to spell a minor chord, you use the 1, the flat 3, and the 5. So let's take a look in the key of C, of course. 1 is C. Our flat 3 is going to go, we got to count 1, 2, 3. This is our normal 3. So now we got to take it down a half step because a flat means to take it down a half step. So we go to E flat here, which is our flat 3. So now instead of a major triad, we have a minor triad. 1 and flat 3. And then 5 still is the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. G. So we have C, E, flat, G. C, E flat, G. That's our C minor chord. Sorry, get my finger out of the way there. 1, flat 3, 5. So see, the only difference between this chord and the major chord was this note right here. Before we had a natural 3, so it was just E, but we're a minor chord, we need to flat the 3rd, so we take the 3 and we lower it a half step, and now our sound is completely changed and we have a minor chord. Okay, now maybe you've heard of sus4. Sus4 means suspended 4th. To spell a sus4 chord, you need the 1, the 4, and the 5. So our 1, still C, right here. Then our 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4. This note is F. That's our 4, and then 5, of course, is G. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here we go, our sus4. It sounds suspended. The sound is a suspended sound, and it wants to resolve down a half step to this E, to the major chord. Watch. Right, so we're leaving that 4 to 3. Gives that characteristic sound here. So a sus4 chord and, uses the 1, the 4, and the 5. Okay? Now what if we were talking about an augmented chord? Okay? Just an augmented triad here. We're going to look at, we need the 1, the 3, and augmented references to a sharp 5. So here you're really going to see the difference. We got our 1, C, our 3, 1, 2, 3, which is E, and then our sharp 5. Normally 5 is here at G, but we got to raise it a half step to G sharp. Okay, so now we have C, E, G sharp. This is an augmented chord. 1, 3, sharp 5. Okay, now really that's just two major triads on top of each other. C to E is a major triad, and E to G sharp is a major triad. So when I review the chords in the end, I'll teach you about the adding the major dyads plus major dyads, or a minor dyad plus a major dyad, and what that equals. But right now we're just focused on the degrees of the scale we need to use in order to build a chord. So once again, that was augmented. Now we're going to move to diminished. Diminished is 1, flat 3, flat 5. So here we go. 1, C. Flat 3, if you know by now, is E flat, because it's 1, 2, 3, and move it a half step down. So we have E flat. And then our flat 5 is F is 4, G is 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we got to flat it. So we go down to an G flat right there. And now we're going to have the diminished triad. Okay, so there we go. That's a diminished chord. 1, flat 3, flat 5. All right, now maybe we can start talking about seventh chords. Seventh chords are major or minor triads with an extra note added on top, and of course it's going to be some form of the seventh degree of the scale. So now we're going to introduce a new note. Seventh degree in the key of C is, let's count it out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. B, right? So B is our seventh degree in the key of C, and now let's start by taking our first chord, which will do a major 7. A major 7 chord is a major triad plus the natural 7. You can also look at it as 1, 3, 5, 7. So remember, 1, 3, 5 was just our major chord, and now adding the 7th, it becomes a major 7. So here we go, 1, 3, 5, that was our major, and now we add the B in here to make it a major 7. So it's the major triad plus the 7. Okay, now, next chord. If we were going to talk about a dominant 7 chord. A dominant 7 chord is a major triad, so we got our 1, 3, 5. But now we need a flat 7. So remember, our normal 7 was here on B. Now we want to lower it a half step down to B flat. So this is a dominant 7 chord. 1, 3, 5, flat 7. So here the only difference between a major 7 and a dominant 7 is this note here. The 7th degree goes from being a natural 7 to a flat 7. All right, moving along. Now let's go into a minor 7 chord. A minor 7 chord is simply a minor triad, so we have our 1, flat 3, 5, and we need to add our flat 7, which is B flat. So remember, B was natural 7, B flat is now flat 7, and this is all in the key of C. So we have 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. It's a nice chord. All right, so it's just a minor triad plus the flat 7. Okay, now let's look at a tricky chord here, a minor major 7. It's kind of like a spooky kind of James Bondy chord, but really all it is a minor triad. So we have C, E flat, G, 1, flat 3, 5, and then we're going to add the natural 7. Now the reason I want to show you this chord, even though it's weird, is you want to see why we can have a minor major 7 chord, but we can't have a major minor 7. This is why. The minor major 7 has a minor triad here with a natural 7, right? So that's why we have this sound. But if we were to do the opposite and have a major triad with a minor 7 or a flat 7, we already have a name for this chord. If you thought about it already, I'll tell you now, it's a dominant chord. So a major triad plus the flat 7 is going to give you a dominant chord, while a minor triad plus the natural 7 is going to give you a crazy name of minor major 7. So anyway, good for the theory books. Moving along, we'll go to the next chord, which is a minor 7 flat 5. Now, all a minor 7 flat 5 is 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7. It's our minor 7 chord with, of course, a flat 5. So we have C is our 1, 2, flat 3 here on E flat. G was our normal 5. We're going to lower that a half step to G flat, and then we keep our flat 7, which is B flat here. So that's a minor 7 flat 5 chord. 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7. All right, and last one we'll look at here is a dominant 7 sus 4, because that's real common. What that is a 1, 4, 5, flat 7. So we have 1, and then 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4, our F. 4, 5 is G, and then flat 7, of course, is B flat here. So we have. And remember when we wanted to resolve down to the F wanted to go to the E? Sounds nice. Okay, so that's a dominant 7 sus 4. 1, 4, 5, flat 7. All right, now let's do a quick review. First chord was a major triad. 1, 3, 5. Then we had a minor triad, which was a 1, flat 3, 5. Then we had a sus 4, sus 4, which is 1, 4, 5. Then we had our augmented chord, which is 1, 3, sharp 5. We had our diminished chord, which is 1, flat 3, flat 5. And then we went on to sevens. Here we went major 7, which is 1, 3, 5, 7. And then we had our dominant 7, which was 1, 3, 5, flat 7. And then we had our minor 7, which was 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. Then we had our minor major 7, which was 1, flat 3, 5, natural 7. Then we had our minor 7 flat 5, which is 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7. And then finally, our dominant 7 sus 4, which is 1, 4, 5, flat 7. So now hopefully you can take the knowledge that you learned about chord building and apply them to different keys. Once again, the reason I showed you this in the key of C major is because it requires no sharps or flats to spell the C major scale, and that's where you need to start. You need to start with whatever key you're looking to spell the chord in. You have to figure out the key signature for that major key. So for instance, in the key of G, we're talking about we need to find out that there's one sharp, F sharp, in the key of G, and therefore we can apply our formulas, 1, 3, 5, flat 7, stuff like that, to G major. You can't just apply it to G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because already right there you're using a flat 7 by making it an F instead of an F sharp. So you got to start with whatever chord you're trying to spell. You start with that major key, and then you apply whatever the formula is to create a certain chord to that major key, right? So if we're taking, a G major chord that we know is G, B, D, we want to know how to make a G minor chord. We need to now take a 1, flat 3, 5. So you apply that formula to the G major. 1 is G, 3 was B, and now I'm asking for a flat 3, so we go to B flat, and then 5 is D. So you can alter it that way. So sit down with your guitar or the piano. Piano is the best because it's laid out clearest first, and then apply it to your guitar, and see if you can start seeing where these notes fall. In the guitar, you'll notice a lot of times we hold the chord a little different than we spell it. Like I was showing you on the piano, everything was laid out 1, 3, 5, 7, and I was literally going 1, 3, 5, 7. But sometimes on the guitar, you'll play 1, 5, 7, and then 3, which is off the screen here. But you know, just seeing how those notes play into the chords will help you out a lot. If you have a piano, that's definitely the place to start. And it takes time, so make some note cards and, you know, quiz yourself. How do I spell minor 7 flat 5? Oh, 1 flat 3 flat 5 flat 7. How do I spell a dominant chord? You know, 1 3 5 flat 7. You start doing stuff like that and it'll come quicker, and then when you're going to compose or just play anything, you'll have that extra bit of knowledge to help you along. So hopefully this made a lot of sense. Might take a few times watching through it to fully understand the concepts we're talking about here, but I think it'll really play a big role in your guitar playing and your overall musical education. So good place to start here with the keyboard, and we'll talk a lot more about this in the future.